making a video. Okay, context. Yeah, I think it'll be evolution eventually. Some more. That's the key word for me lately. Is that this really is just a conversation about getting people to understand the nature of our nature, our origins, to understand how we basically function and what that spells in terms of obligations, of intelligence. What are the logical implications of evolution? And that's really what this whole conversation's about. It's taking atheism and evolution and evidence seriously and not just playing bigot games. Yeah, him again. And so that's the second argument here, is that, people are sick of me arguing with these assholes. But the truth is, or arguing at least with their video, like somehow conversation with assholes is better than just dissecting statements by assholes. But whatever's, the whole argument, that I'm here to entertain or something is also a problem. It's really not the point of me making videos. And yes, this is somehow a vehicle I have to ride, so I'll pragmatically do it as much as I have to, so I will try to please the audience, but I'm not doing it because I want to. Yeah, I don't want to please you. I just want to get to the point and to emphasize the point until there's a response to the point, or what I consider to be a sufficient response to the point. And I haven't heard the sufficient response to the point that there's absolutely no reason for me to accept bigotry, just gross bigotry, I mean this whole animal thing and the rest of it, as excusable in 2015. I could say that there's so many points in history where you say what they did was just fucking stupid. Okay, I mean soldiers going in and shooting the squaws, Custer and his friends, and the Nazis saying, well, let's go get those bastards. But what they meant by bastards wasn't the evil rich cunts. No, the Jewish rich cunts. It was just bigotry, stupid. Didn't make any sense. They had lost its focus. It wasn't focused on the real problem anymore, which was bad economics. So they scapegoated. And that's all this is. This is just running away. Same thing as scapegoating is running away to, it'll all be alright. Silver lining, unicorn, whatever bullshit you're making up, to take the edge off the truth, which is, this is evolution, and evolution doesn't do good things. It just doesn't. It's not its function. It makes monsters, and that's what we are. It's the nature of our psychology. So again, this guy wants to validate his impulses, validate his monkey, and say the monkey isn't doing anything wrong. But clearly, the monkey that has a computer, okay, has no excuse to be stupid anymore. Has no excuse not to know what the word bigot means. Not to be able to figure out that it can't gain its gratification on a giant heap of refuse. So, part of this argument comes from the point that it's hard to make it in an argument. Because in some ways you have to live it. In some ways, enough bricks have to hit you in the head, so to speak, enough of the real gravity of the circumstance, the reality, for you to get it. I could use an example of a friend I had who was, two events in her life. I mean, her brother being killed in World War II, and the fact that she had to live her whole life knowing that this sweet, sensitive, very intelligent young man, 21, burning on the deck of an aircraft carrier, in a sea of oil on fire. He's just burning to death. That's what she has to live with for the rest of her life, is knowledge that her revered older brother burned to death on the deck of an aircraft carrier. Not because he hated the Japanese, not for any good real reason, but because of a bunch of political crapola. but that this is what nature's going to do anyway. If it didn't burn him to death on the aircraft carrier, it could have given him a brain tumor. It doesn't matter, but the point is that's what she's stuck with. And in another circumstance where somebody who was destitute and in and out of rehab, you know, in those days it wasn't rehab, it was the hospital, for 10 years, you know, in and out of the mental institution, eventually said he had enough and jumped in front of her car. So he chose her in a sense. So she bothered to find out something about him. And just the idea of, you know, this is another thing that's just sitting there in your life, and you say, those experiences, I think, are going to humble the fuck out of you. They're the kind of thing that'll just roll around in your head, and you'll say, this suits me. So that's what he's saying in this video. Life suits me. I like watching the animals chase down the little ones, you know, and rip their hide off while they squiggle and squirm. I like the crunching sound of the crocodile breaking the bones in the river. You like what? You like the agony of defeat that's just piled around us. It's for your silly, oh wow, he danced really well. And he's even going to use an example here of war or something, and some guy gets shot in the neck, and I don't know whether this is a fantasy caricature or what. And as the person's falling backwards, oh, they don't resent it. Oh, very good shot, Mr. Nazi. You know, and just saying, oh yeah, life suits me, as the, you know, their last bit of blood gurgles out. And that sounds all Hemingway or something, but I think if we go through all those 21-year-olds killed in World War II, or even in Vietnam, I don't think they were doing any of that shit as they were having their final moment. I think they were saying, ah, shit, I knew this was going to happen. I think they were saying, well, this was a fucking stupid party. So, whatever. You know, to just play, again, it's back to this ludicrous word. Oh, let's just call it ludicrous, and then we don't have to take responsibility for the fact that it's fundamentally broken. That the game itself is stupid. Acquire addictions, chase addictions. And that's all this guy's going to glorify. And it doesn't really matter. Victim, smictum. And that's the part that just bugs the fuck out of me. Is this idea that I will do what is necessary for it to happen again. I will not prevent it from happening again. I will make it happen again. And that's the inexcusable part. That's the bigotry against victims. Victims are just whiners. They have no authority here. We, the bigots, say, you're just a dumbass Jew, and I will do what with you what I will. I'll make cheese out of you. It suits me. And that's all you're fucking saying. And it's a stupid thing to say. And I shall point that out. If I can get my mouse to work correctly.
I'll be one with Atman and Brahman and all that kind of thing. But while I'm here, that chocolate bar that I've got sitting there on my desk tastes, you know, looks really tempting to me, and that woman over there has got nice hips, etc., etc. You know, it's just, there's...
So this is just such a, here's another one of these straw man fake arguments that somehow an anti-natalist is saying there's nothing fun to do on Earth, there's no good, everything sucks, blah blah blah. No, nobody's doing that. Nobody's saying don't have sex. Anti-natalists, I don't know any of them. I mean, there might be a few who are unsexual, but none of them are against sex as far as I know. None of them would say don't do it. You know, don't bother, or, well, they might, I suggest not bothering just because they might explain to you it's a trap, and it sort of is, but they're not, that's not the passion of their argument. Their argument isn't saying don't do it, it's no good, sex isn't fun. No, they're just saying don't have babies, fuckhead. So again, it's this subtle distinction between the monkey with the computer and the monkey without the computer. I mean, once you have the Wikipedia page and you can read up on what the consequences are, and there's this inevitable consequence that once you do this thing, you've just opened a huge, vast door to all kinds of insidious harm, then you have to take responsibility for it. Then it's on fucking goddamn you. It's not an accident anymore.
And not just temptations, but actual desires to experience certain things. Like I want to meditate my way into a higher state of consciousness or something like that.
Yeah, well, even those as theories. You're saying I'm allowed to have these theories. And I would say, yeah, you are, until you start affecting other people. So again, this is just a basic politeness rule. That, yeah, you can do all kinds of wacky shit, but as soon as your wacky shit starts bumping up against somebody else, that's the problem. And this whole idea that you're entitled to, create based on your rainbow fantasies is absolute bullshit. It's no better than the fantasies of maniacal tyrants. And that's all you are. You're just a maniacal tyrant. A bigoted tyrant. Alright, so we'll move forward to spare all the people who've had their fill of this shithead. Which I have too, but I'm just saying, this is the obligation. These are the assholes that run the world.
This is a reason, and I would say patience.
Right, so he's basically, this is where he's critiqued me as some unreasonable character somehow, because I actually give a shit. So he says it's okay to talk to the gloom and doomers, the depressives even, you could argue, right? Like that crazy guy in France or whatever. He's a big Koran fan, and he was always so hostile. Why? Oh, because I actually believe in this shit, where to him it's just some sort of academic theory. And so, he's saying he's having the argument with these people of some sort of genuineness, and yet their genuineness has no meaning, has no substance. They will sacrifice not even the dead skin on a couple of fingers for the cause. They'll compromise nothing either, just like him. So they're just as lazy and useless in doing anything constructive. And that's supposed to be reasonable. The reasonable cause fighter is the guy who accomplishes nothing. That's being reasonable.
Out there, Mystic of the Sands and a few of the other people.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's a real hard-ass atheist, right? Mystic of the Sands. Yeah, it sounds just like a real hard-ass evolutionist atheist. No, it doesn't.
Are very patient and persistent in putting their case forward and not getting...
Yeah, and what is their case? Their case is what? They don't have a case. They don't have any statement except, woe is me, but let's not do anything about it.
Worked up when they're misunderstood or even misrepresented. I try to be that way, but I think that they're a little bit better than I am. And I try to be that way not because I'm a nice guy.
Yeah, whatever. You're just blowing smoke up each other's retarded asses, as far as I can tell. I'll exchange 2 rationalizations for your 3 rationalizations, because mine are a little better than yours. That's all. You just seem to me exchanging rationalizations and excuses for not taking full and entire responsibility for the fact that we are the most intelligent being on this planet. We are the only thing that can manage it. We can't be looking up to the clouds and keep saying the clouds will take care of it. Mr. Tantra man will take care of it. Some other, alien's going to show up and take care of it. Something, the magic of the universe, the unicorn, the ultimate forces, the Gaia will percolate up its own solution. No, it's our game now. We own the fucking game. It's the truth of it. The game exists because we mow the grass for it. We keep the game playable. That's the fact of it. How else to say this? Yeah, consciousness has arrived. It's shown up. A competent driver is now on the bus. There's just absolutely no excuse for him not sitting behind the wheel and taking responsibility. Just no excuse.
But because I want to actually stick to the point.
Right, and what is the point? Again, your point is that somehow we're allowed to be dumb monkeys and that we have no obligations to separate our personal life from our pragmatic, physical, imposing life in the world. That those two things don't need to have any lines drawn between them. That you can drive drunk on your monkey. And my argument is a simple argument that no, you can't. Once you're smart, you can't drive drunk anymore. Once you're smart, you have to know that you have a psychology. The psychology is basically designed by shit, and that it can't define the truth anymore because it cheats like fucking hell. It's a rationalizing piece of shit. and that psychology cannot own the philosophy of mankind. It cannot own the logic devices because it will pervert the logic. It will break the program. It will create an operating system that makes Windows look brilliant.
I don't want to get derailed by stupid irrelevancies.
Yeah, and the stupid irrelevancies are what? Derailed exactly how? Again, that this is just idiotic. You can sit there and, again, malign people as tyrannical monsters, but they can't call you impositional shitheads. I mean, you're just a hypocrite. You're just a duplicitous motherfucking hypocrite. You will malign and impugn other people's character using Schlugenschlagen. You'll just pick a German word instead of just saying fuckhead. Well, that's your choice to play that game, but don't, you're not fooling me, fuckhead, okay? The game you're playing is just as fucking, is just as indirect as my game is direct. I'm playing the fair game. I'm being the fair cop. I'm being the honest man, motherfucker.
Which, is defined by me, that I think are stupid irrelevancies. So,
right. The honesty, the truth. Stupid irrelevancy.
My wife thinks that what I do on the internet here is a stupid irrelevancy, so...
Yeah, so I've obviously decided to accept wacky rules as the rules of life. That's right, I'll marry somebody who thinks I'm doing stupid irrelevant things. Because I have a fat wallet. So that makes it all okay. I could be as stupid as irrelevant as it doesn't really matter. As long as my wallet stays plump enough, game on. That's the stupid fact of your life, fuckhead. So again, way to go. Brilliant.
All in the eye of the beholder.
No, all in a fashion that can be described accurately or inaccurately. Life is here. The reality of our existence is here. It can be described accurately or it can be described with a malicious, deliberate effort to construct rationalizations and excuses for crude, stupid monkey behavior. I want to make excuses to be an indulgent, donut-eating fat monkey, and that's all you're fucking goddamn doing, and people like me is just sitting there saying, no, we know that's not the truth, fuckhead.
So it looks as though there is some sort of compatibilism that can sort of take place there between the two.
Yes, exactly. The people can be all compatible with any kind of silly bigotry, and they'll all go marching along as long as your uniforms are shiny and your flags look well pressed, and it all looks efficient and nice and purposeful. Oh, it's all mission oriented. So it doesn't matter whether it's selling coke. It doesn't matter whether it's burning Jews. I mean, your standards are incomprehensibly unprincipled. You're just going with the aesthetics. I mean, it's an imbecile's definition of good and bad. And you have all the evidence in the world of what's actually going on here. Like I said, the evidence of evolution has been piling up for 150 years. And it's a monstrous, gigantic pile of evidence, and you just keep sweeping it sweep it under the rug, sweep it under the rug. My kids will deal with it. Yeah, let them worry about it. It's like the debt and all the other unsustainable behavior. You just keep sweeping it under the rug. Yeah, the next generation will make a ski slope out of it. That's not what's going to happen. The next generation is going to get buried under it in a giant mudslide of sludgy stench.
And we are all on a continuum. People just, say, why don't antinatalists kill themselves or whatever? Because you're missing the point when you say that. And it's the same thing. Why do?
Well, you've said it. But whatever. So yeah, you're missing the point that you can't really do something against it. You really can't stop it if you're not in the game, just playing the game. You got to be in the war to get shot in the neck, kind of thing.
Why would a life affirmer cleave to something that...
Use up an enemy's bullet, at least, right? I can't even use up one of their bullets if I don't at least, stick my neck out.
That they know is temporary. Well, they've got a different view of time.
No, you got a different view of reality, right? And that's what's being argued here, is that your view is completely made up and based on absolutely zero credible evidence. It's just an indulgent. It's just a wank you give to your brain. And it has absolutely nothing to do with honoring something that might be called the truth, It has nothing to do with honoring the victims, respecting them at all. It's just a bigotry against them, clearly. It's a disregard, a way of discounting and eliminating them from memory. They will not get in my way. They will not spoil my lovely cheese. That's all you're saying.
A different view of experience. They have a different view of...
And that's totally wrong. There's no different view of experience. There's a different view of the reality of the context of your experience. You are not just a player on an independent island game. You're in a game with other sentient beings. Every move you make will decide their fate. It's just not a free ride. It's a very expensive ride, and you have to account for the expense by demonstrating what the fuck you're doing that is worth somebody else being burned to death on an aircraft carrier.
Ontology itself, what being is, you know, it's, they're almost, like, the way I look at it, it's almost like...
You know, I can go down the list of all the things you need to justify. The attrition, the baby elephants being eaten by the lions, the number of baby octopi, 10,000 of them consumed, annihilated, slaughtered, holocausted out of existence, macheted to death to create an octopus.
Patahrai is more of a...
It's another fantasy concept that has nothing to do with reality.
Wonderful thing to think about. The kaleidoscope will never stop generating new things for me to see.
Whatever that means. New illusions, new distortions of reality. The kaleidoscope is, by its very definition, a distorter. So you're just indulging yourself in fantasies. You're just making up a reality to live in. And that's fine if you do it in your fucking closet. But when you take that shit on the street, that's drunk driving. And that's offensive.
You know, in order to make room for them, we have to destroy the old things. To some people, that's horrific. To some people, that's wonderful.
Who knows what he just talked about, right? I mean, he obviously made an implication, nothing better than it's another Nietzscheism. I will vaguely reference some sort of evil and say, I'm the anti-evil. Yeah, that's all he just, yeah, okay, I'll do that too. I'm the good guy, they're the bad guy. There, are we done now? Because I changed the tone of my voice.
Is it a question of one side is right or one side is wrong?
Yes, now we're done. That's exactly what it is. It is a question of truth. It's a question of context and the reality. Is drunk driving bad? The answer is yes. Can drunk driving be prevented? Yes. Can you not drunk drive and still drink like a fucking fish? Yes. No obligation to do much sacrificing except these simple little things like wearing a condom and not driving drunk. The rules aren't all that fucking onerous, and all you have to do is accept that, okay, I get it. There's implication. So when I just can't take my wankery on the street. Okay, I can do that. And you're just saying no. No, that's asking too much. Not drinking and driving drunk is part of the fun. Well, that's when you become a sadistic, Mengelesque imposer.
I don't think so. It's just... we all have reasons. We're all the blind man and the elephant.
No, you're the blind man and elephant. You're the idiot who can't sit there and make surmises about the fact that you're a blind man feeling, groping an organism. And that, of course, somebody's going to be in the end where the poo flies out. This is just all such a big pile of shit. Yeah, metaphorically. That was a very good coincidental combination of concepts.
Reasons for believing that the elephant is one way, and other people have reasons for it being another way.
No, they don't. I'm just saying, that's not the world. That's not where we're existing in. We're not existing in a blind world. We're not blind. We have a ton of fucking evidence. We have microscopes and telescopes. So this a metaphor that we're all somehow blind, groping for the world, is just a fucking lie. God is deservedly and well suitably been buried as an idiotic, moronic fantasy. It has nothing to do with reality. None of this mumbo-jumbo has anything to do with reality beyond the reality of you saying it makes me feel better. Well, fine. I know it's against you feel better. If you like to dance, square dance in your living room, square dance till you're fucking drop dead. And suit me, fine. But don't tell me that square dancing is an excellent way to drive a car. You know, doing a little square dancing while you're driving is a great idea. Because it's not a great idea. It's a fucking idiotic idea. And it's a dangerous idea, and it has a consequence. So again, quit telling me that I'm imposing on you because I'm saying you can't do your silly, crappy, stupid rituals on the graves of the people who are paying for your silly, stupid ritual rites. That's just a fucking, again, it's a hypocrisy that's grotesque. Not unlike the Germans who, well, let's get rid of all those nasty Jews. Well, except the ones that are useful. Yeah, fuck. Bogus.
Being another way. As I say, this has turned into just another gigantic exercise for me in Anaconda.
Right, so whatever. Again, it has nothing to do with what
what
I think the exercise is in communicating with other human beings, which is it should be some exercise that's trying to get to the truth, and all you're trying to do is sell a religion. That's all it comes down to. You're just selling a fantasy that you found very useful in exempting you from any sense of responsibility. Well, fine. I think that's fucking evil. I think that is no better than a propagandist for Nazis. It's nothing better than a propagandist for Stalin or for any other tyrant or any other mechanism that is not well principled or honest or decent or right or fair or any good concept. So you're just trying to package evil, okay, in some sort of compatibilistic wrappings as if, oh, it's not really evil because it's the universe itself or some other bullshit. You're just evading your personal responsibility and in an atmosphere where the overt 2 plus 2 math is so fucking obvious, and you're just saying, I now have a mechanism where I get to use my eraser and change the rules of mathematics. So when it's convenient, 2 plus 2 equals 4. When it's inconvenient, I can make it equal 17. And it's just goddamn cheating. And fuck you for it. It's intellectually dishonest. It's nothing but a lie. So fuck you for that. Out and about again. Yay! Really is very nice. Extremely nice. Or whatever. Whether. So again, this is part of the psychology thing. You know, why is there this mechanism where we can have these nice versus unnice? Is mainly because we need reward and punishment as a behavioral tool. It will enhance behavior if there's a mechanism. I smell a skunk. Yeah, that wouldn't be a good thing to run into. I haven't had one of those in years. Anyway, yeah, it's a behavioral mechanism. A way of enhancing behavior by doing this learning thing. And you can't learn if there isn't a mechanism to establish value. And people don't understand that that's the origins of the existence of value in a conversation or about anything, is the fact that nature made it. It's part of this, part of the toolkit, is having a value recognizing device. And obviously evolution wants us to recognize a certain kind of value: food, shelter, gratification of urges, and you know, for the purpose of the consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction. And so that's its the default programming. Then we come along with this language thing, start doing some observing, and we figure out what's upstream. So like the salmon swimming up the stream, we figure out why we desire, why we're going upstream. And so now we can do an analysis that's more reflective of some kind of actual value, which is the actual mechanism that makes us feel. So the value is in the feeling good, feeling bad, and what we are caused to feel good and bad about, we the brain can modify substantially. Can't undo your taste in certain smells are going to excite your taste buds. Certain sights are going to excite other parts of you. Can't do much about that, but you can certainly understand the context and act appropriately. I would argue if you were a salmon, you'd put up some signs saying don't go upstream. Nothing good happens up there. You know, it's just an analysis of the context of how we function. It's just the truth about what we are. And what we are is programmed machines. And the good news is the programming is sloppy. It's lazy. Nature was incredibly lazy in giving us incentives that were short-sighted. It established goals and desires that were so simplistic. They had nothing to do with the end game, which is the replication of the molecule. First, because we couldn't understand that, but beyond that, it didn't have any practical way to make the end a visible good, where it could make just doing what creates the end, what creates the causes that will create the end effect, i.e., sexual desire, hunger. We're not trying to survive. We're not trying to feed our body when we eat. We're satisfying hunger. Same with breathing and drinking and all of this stuff. So anyway, that's the context is that this is all of these elements are part of our psychology, and our psychology is because we were social organisms, and that created another part of this whole toolkit, which is this social psychology, i.e., a very competitive nature. Now, not just competitive with things that are different than us, like most animals who are kind of hostile to anything that demonstrates a lack of similarity to ourselves. But we've now narrowed the contest psychologically to a mechanism of hierarchy and establishing mechanisms of power distribution, privilege distribution, and a way of preventing that becoming destructive. So you could argue that our psychology is kind of built into it mechanisms that shut us down, fear mechanisms, humiliation mechanisms, that are established essentially to prevent the competition, the interior competition, where we wish to prove ourselves from being destructive. So you can imagine that if all the males remained aggressively alpha in their psychology and none of them became submissive, that what they would end up doing is fighting all the time, and no one would ever be able to be king for more than a day. There'd be a constant battle that would just create injuries, and nobody would win in the end. They couldn't establish any hierarchy, and there would be no advantage to being the alpha, being the dominant. Because if you establish your ownership, the aggressors would just keep coming and keep challenging, and so the best man would essentially be destroyed by the mere attrition, by mere numbers of battles he'd have to survive. So we have psychological mechanisms that create in us fear and intimidation and an unwillingness to definitely a temperament to our aggression. And it's just, I think, just this is more evidence of how we are more psychologically, although these are very simple, the end result is a simple one, like with replication. Obviously, the social dynamic of what our psychology has become to create that end, it gets a little complicated because there's all kinds of interests built in, and interests that are different for males than females biologically, which end up being differences psychologically. So yeah, the point is that's the real context of this game. So if I feel good competing, and I say it suits me, it doesn't mean it's a good thing. It just means that my psychology sees value because my psychology is feeding on a need for to prove myself or to establish ownership or dominance, so it's, you could look at things like alcoholism or gambling, for example, is a good example. What psychology is that feeding on? This desperate will or desperate attempt to gain control, through this, very easy game to play. And it's very rewarding to the psychology in need of hope. It just keeps wanting to throw Hail Mary passes because it just loves the thrill of that moment where the ball's in the air, and there's some hope, that you're going to get somewhere. You're going to win, score, in this desperate manner. But it is a desperate psychological syndrome where you're just feeding this need for control, and although you can say it suits you, practicality says it won't suit you in the sense that most people will be ruined by the process rather than elevated by it. There won't be an increase in health or welfare. There'll just be people getting rich off of it. So there's no benefit to this notion that, well, it suits me personally. Again, that's like a slave owner saying it suits me personally to be a slave owner. It's not accounting for the context of the game you're playing, and what you're being suited by is a very real and one has to be, one should be cognizant in a very personal way with the price for failure. And there's people who claim they have some appreciation for this cost of failure because they've somehow tasted failure, the agony of defeat, and yet they're saying it's worth it. I tend to doubt the veracity of those claims, because it's not been my personal experience with the agony of defeat. But whatever. It is what has to be argued through. Personal interpretation. Why isn't the threat of failure intimidating these people? And again, that could be back to some sort of psychology that manifests where, the alpha establishes this domain ownership, and he has to almost become fearless to maintain the bravado, the image, the threatening poise, to create the submission necessary in the adversaries. They can't see weakness. And so there needs to be a certain genuine confidence, I suppose, in the beastie flailing around its nuclear bombs or whatever it's the game it's playing, and saying, I'm in control, there's no threat, I don't have to worry about dropping this. You know, they can't be worried about what they're juggling, you know, the welfare of other creatures and their own children, for example. They can't be bothered, you know, being worried about dropping one of these balls they're juggling while they're pretending, you know, to be in control and confident. Yeah, so that's you could say this is, you know, you can just do a lot of this kind of Freudian analysis of the motivations of what people are professing to be philosophy, and I would argue it's just psychology. I think it's I mean, obviously I have never been, I've never had cancer. I've never had certain horrors or miseries, but I've had enough of a taste of them that I don't see how it's possible for me to say, bring on any of it. You know, I'm ready. And if somebody is saying that, I have to say how, you know, from what experiential level are they saying that from? Because it does seem that we're living in two different universes. In my universe, this nail in the eye is not something acceptable. It's not a fair price to pay. What I'm getting, the ability to, you know, walk around thinking I'm the man, you know, feel all full of myself, right? That doesn't seem to me to be anywhere close to worth the trip than the nail in the eye, you know, the falling down. I can't make a rational calculation. I can't see any way to justify the price for anything that I understand to be reasonable, just because I know that the feeling, the psychology, is just psychology. Yeah, I could feel good at any moment. I mean, I just pretend the bad doesn't exist, and I can feel good. I can fantasize at any moment. I can just stop here and say, I'm going to think about, you know, my happy place. You know, I don't know, golf course with hookers on every green. You know, ball girls. Yeah, ball girls. Yeah. You know, I can do that. So if being happy is all this is for, then yeah, I can do that. I can engineer that. And that knowledge says to me the reason why I don't do that is because I obviously am, I have a hard-on for something else. And I think that's called the truth. And I know it's there to be described. And I know the truth isn't that reality is subject to opinion. No, it is describable. And you can either describe it accurately or inaccurately. Period. So anyway, I think that's enough. So, I'm out of time anyway. So, till the next time, and such. Yeah, a little buggy today. I feel buggy. 9 out of 10 days I feel buggy. I just feel like sometimes like a shitty bug. Ew. Something's dead. Ew. Smell of death. Nothing dead in the pool, I don't think. Ooh. Ew. Ooh. Can't tell where it's coming from. The wind is fooling me. Anyway, till next time.